Hi there, this is Terry, your host, and welcome to another episode of the Animation Industry Podcast. This chat is featuring Liam Gilbey, a co-founder of a new studio in Norwich called Cut the Mustard. What makes Liam's journey unique is that he and a handful of his classmates started the studio right out of animation school, leading me to wonder what's stopping me or my classmates from doing the same. So in this chat, I grill Liam on how he got his first client, how operations are run, and a deep dive into the finances. And at the end, Liam also shares some great tips on keeping positive mental health through it all. But before we dive into this chat, I'm very grateful to have a sponsored message to share with you. Sponsors of this podcast help pay for the hosting fees on SoundCloud, which otherwise come out of my pocket. So this sponsored message is from my friends over at Bloop Animation, which is an online animation learning platform packed with premium online video courses for aspiring animation filmmakers. They have courses for all major animation programs like Maya, Animate CC, Toon Boom, Blender, TVPaint, and many others, as well as some non-software courses like a storyboarding course, animation foundations course, and even one about making graphic novels, which covers absolutely everything you need to know from start to finish. The courses are all in video form, so there's no deadlines or application process. You simply just pick a course and start learning in seconds. They even offer a free ebook titled Making an Animated Short, which covers their entire process, step by step, of how they made one of their films, from coming up with the idea to storyboarding, animation, and all the way to exporting the film. And you can get that book for free at bloopanimation.com/animation-industry. And of course, you can check out their complete course library at bloopanimation.com/courses. Now, without further ado, let's dive into the chat. Hi, Liam. Thanks for coming on the chat today. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm excellent, thank you. And also congrats on your recent TV short film viewing. Maybe before we get into that, this chat, you can kind of chat about what happened there.
I'm a director of a new company, and we managed to get that company started primarily on funding from the BBC to make a film, and that played last Sunday, or the Sunday before. Wow, time moves quick. The Sunday before, and it played on the BBC, played on BBC4, and that was our TV debut very shortly after we founded as a company, and that was called Headless Population. It was very exciting to see our work on broadcast on TV.
Amazing. How did it end up on the BBC? Were they doing like a call for submissions? Did you know somebody?
Yeah, so they were doing a call for submissions through something called Screen South. There's a bunch of different things across the UK that all run under something called the BBC New Creatives Programme. And our university has been pretty successful with that in the past. So we have grown up at uni, first, second, and third year, having seen other people getting these things. It used to be with a different UK channel called Channel 4, and it didn't usually always play on TV, but it moved from Channel 4 to the BBC. And Kat, the director, she applied. She's in our company, and we got it. And they went through a bunch of stuff. They had to go down to London every now and then and work with them, all professional equipment and sound studio and editing and all that stuff. And then it got made, and then we waited for a while, didn't hear anything as usual. And then it played on TV, and we got like 2 days notice to say, oh, by the way, your film's playing this Sunday. And yeah, we watched it, we showed it off. And that was great. That was fun. It played on a show called Get Animated, BBC Introducing Arts, and they played a bunch of other films from across the country, from people aged 16 to 30. In fact, my university professor made one of the films as well. But I think we were one of the younger teams, which is always fun to see how we compare to everybody. But yeah, it went good. People liked the film, and yeah, we'll be able to show it off in the future.
Nice. Congratulations. That's a really cool opportunity. I hope something more comes out of that, especially because you're kind of so young into your career. In fact, I want to kind of do a dig into your mind to figure out how exactly you ended up at this point, because you're kind of fresh out of university and you started a studio right away. Whereas for me, I'm at Sheridan College right now, and I just finished second year, and like everybody's minds are like, I want an internship, I want to work for a studio. Nobody's thinking about, can I use all these skills and assets that I've gained and connections with the profs and other students to actually band together a few other students and start your own studio, which I think is incredible. So what was the biggest reason why you chose this path versus the kind of traditional go to an internship, work for a studio?
So it's definitely a complicated one because like it on the surface probably seems like a bit of a giant risk, and of course it was a giant risk. But there was five of us. We were all founders of the company. We all worked together in our final year of uni, where we had to make a final film. We actually ended up making two final films simultaneously, and we realized that we worked very, very well together. We all worked in 2D. We all worked very similar styles. And then by making two films instead of one, and we finished both of them, we realized that this is something that could continue. Our university has offices that they can rent out for cheaper prices, and that was an opportunity that we basically could not give up on and pass up. And that was the big thing for us. We had a film from the BBC in the works, we had two graduate films, and we had cheap offices. And with all of that together, and the fact that we worked well as a team, we decided to go for it. We did have a big debate whether we do it now or whether we go have careers of our own and then do it later. But we spoke to some industry professionals, and they all were on the side of, hey, this is the only chance you're going to have to do it now. If you do it and it fails, then you haven't lost as much.
Industry professionals like studio owners or other people like animators?
We spoke to a studio owner. They're in Middlesbrough, which is a city in the north of the UK. It basically has no animation presence. It's not a particularly well-off city. And it's quite similar to where we're from, Norwich, where Norwich is quite away from everything else. That has quite poor transport links. It's hard to get back to places like London, and it almost feels like it's separated from places. And we saw a lot in common with them, where we were in a world where there wasn't too much animation, and we did have an opportunity to corner that market, and to make a little world of our own. There's a lot of animation in London, but we've managed to kind of make our own little corner of the world over in where we are.
Well, I mean, it sounds like a plan after the fact, but let me kind of get this straight. You're in university, you know, you and your friends have made a couple films. You have one in the wraps with the BBC, which is probably really exciting, I assume. And there's just cheap office space around. So
Yeah,
what made you say, but you didn't have clients or anything, and you didn't actually have any
no,
business background in a sense.
no.
What made you say we have to do this? This is our thing. Like even though we're not making any money, we don't know how to make money. We're gonna figure
Yeah.
it out anyways. Like that's a huge risk.
Yeah, of course. So I personally had been kind of pushing for this sort of idea since maybe halfway through our second year. So about halfway through university, I was pushing for this idea. I've always wanted to own a company, not to own a company, but just to have the freedom of being an artist who works for myself. But I'm also very social, and I didn't like the idea of being a strict freelancer who works from home and is alone most of the time. And I'm sure that would be great, but I just think it's not the way that I work. So we talked about it for a while, and there was a big number of us involved, and we eventually kind of whittled it down to five of us. But
You mean you had like auditions and cuts?
well, no, there was quite a natural group of us that existed, but five of us did 2D, so it kind of just
Okay.
fell down
So
to that.
so you were kind of spreading the word and saying like, hey guys, I'm thinking of making a studio. Who's interested? Okay, so kind of organically through
Yeah.
what you were kind of pushing out there,
But
kind of
yeah,
formed.
but it was less about word of mouth and more about just the bonds that we formed at university anyway. It was like, we work good with these people.
Yeah.
It's not I necessarily didn't work good with anyone, but it's just there's certain people you have stronger bonds with. And the conversation went from, wouldn't it be cool to own a company, to, whoa, we own a company, in a very organic way. It's hard to pinpoint it on one specific thing, but as we were talking to people and as we were realizing we could get the office space and we could get career mentorship after graduation from our uni, the ball kind of started rolling. I had been freelancing in second year, and I did a bit of motion graphics, and I did that for some relatively big companies, just little jobs, but for more professional companies. And I was getting sense of how they worked.
Yeah. How did you manage getting those gigs, those freelance
Uh,
jobs?
so
Sorry, sidetrack.
I knew a graphics designer at our uni. Graphics designer wanted to, the company he worked for wanted to branch out into motion graphics, but they'd never done it before. So they wanted to trial it with a student, which probably on their end means that they wanted to do it for cheap pay. But on my end, I meant that I got the opportunity to do it. I teamed up with them for a little bit. The work came sometimes. It wasn't anything full time, but I was still a student at the time, and it gave me the experience I think I needed to go. I think this might be possible.
Yeah, so I want to chat about how you kind of started up and got things running, but you said in your second year you started thinking about this. Like I just finished my second year. What's stopping me, or what would really make the path easier for me to gather a bunch of my classmates and start a studio? Like looking back through your own experience, how could you really streamline that process?
The hardest part for us is being honest, we're artists, not businessmen. So if this was something anybody out there was thinking of, you thinking it is possible. It is possible. Everybody who goes freelance is their own businessman anyway. The only jump is you're doing it with more people. So I think if you were to take a piece of advice, I guess, it would be to start learning about the business side of things, especially finance. Money is a very complicated thing. And I think sometimes it's more needlessly complicated than it is, but just knowing what you know about money and, nothing massively complicated, but just knowing the basics is a good foundation to be like, okay, we can go up from here. Yeah.
Basics like accounting basics, or
Yeah.
like profit loss, or like charging, like what are you talking about?
As in, well, it depends by country, I guess, because obviously
Yeah.
some of the laws that we're dealing with is obviously different from the rest of the world. But like for us, we came into it and you have these conversations where what type of company legally do we want to be? Like in the UK, you can be a partnership, you can be a limited liability.
Yeah, similar
Do we
here.
want to work from home? If so, where does the business get? Where's the business address? Is it to our house? We don't own this house, so I rent here. And then there's the problems of that. You have to know businesses need structure. We had to decide whether we wanted shareholders or not. If so, how many? That was lucky that there was 5 of us. Otherwise, it would have been one of those things where we'd had to work out what happens if there's a split decision between us. Just knowing the basics of how businesses work
Yeah.
is the start. And if there is any sort of guidance or counseling or anything like that that can help, we're very lucky that we have a careers advisor at our uni. Our uni is very, very good with people who've graduated. And we have times when we don't always know. I mean, it's quite natural. We always encounter new things. We're dealing with all sorts of clients, big and small, and everything in between. And having people that we can reach out to and ask the questions, because it's completely acceptable to graduate and not know everything. You fundamentally have spent 3 or 4 years learning to draw, learning to animate properly. Like that should be your focus, but you shouldn't expect to get out of uni knowing everything. But if you can squeeze in the time to learn a little bit about business, if that's the way you want to go, then it's all every tiny thing is going to help you.
Nice. So how long has it been since you started the company now?
We formed officially in November. So we were working unofficially before that, just kind of building. And we were all working from home from this house where we've ironically ended up back. But then we made the big plunge to say, hey, we should move to an office. We should take up the university's offer. Not that the university was offering us, but the space was there. There was one office remaining, and it was perfect size for us. And we went for it. And I guess that was one of the biggest risks that we took. Aside from forming a company, the next biggest risk was moving into an office. But that's probably the best thing we ever did, because having a work-home balance is very important. And I think it makes me work harder. I think it helps us separate our lives, because often, especially as an artist, especially as a freelance artist, there's a lot of crossover where your work is your life, and it can get very consuming.
Yeah. So are you guys 100% full time working on the animation studio now, or is it part time when you're ramping up type of situation?
So we're still building up. I go to the office Monday to Friday. We all have part-time jobs. I think that's important to mention, because we
Hmm.
didn't just magically
So
grow
what's your
money.
part-time job then?
I am a technician at a bowling alley.
Oh,
So,
nice.
yeah,
Wait, what does a technician at a bowling alley do?
I fix all the bowling machines down the back. Um, yeah, and I've had a bunch of odd weekend jobs,
So you're
but
working full time at the studio and part time on another job.
Mhm.
So that's interesting to me. Are you making maybe this is a weird question and you don't have to answer it, I guess, but if you're working full time, are you making like full time salary, I guess? No, you're
No,
not at that point yet.
no, not at that point yet.
You're
But
like putting in the extra effort now to get to that point, right?
yeah, we
Yeah.
gave ourselves a target, and to reach said target, to say, hey, by this time next year, we would like to all quit our part-time jobs and have built that money uh, to go full time and to start going for that. It wouldn't be the top of the range animation salary, but none of us are particularly here for the best salary possible. We're here to build something, and building something takes a very long time. Um, but obviously, with everything going on at the moment, I don't know whether the year calculation is right or not. We're actually doing better than anticipated at the moment.
Oh, wow.
People want animation, especially like digital marketing agencies, advertising companies, place people that would go out and film something. Usually they can't film at the moment, and obviously it's bad to capitalize on something like that. But it's important to mention that people want animation at the moment. The Writers Guild of America suggested to their professional screenwriters and guild members that they start writing for animation, because there'll be an uptake in the industry in the next year.
Huh.
Um, so it's definitely an interesting time to be an animator, for sure. But yeah, sorry, I lost track of the question there.
That's okay. No, you pretty much answered it. And I have another question that comes out of that. So like from a business, starting a new business side of things, like 90, I think the stats are like 99% of businesses fail within the first year. And then like 99% of the businesses that didn't fail in the first year fail after that. But it sounds like you're doing really well right now. Like you're ramping up, you have a studio space, you have 5 people working together. What is something that is really pushing for your success? Like, why do you think that this business will really thrive?
So, that's a big question. So I
You don't have to answer.
potentially it could come down to a bunch of factors. We're very versatile, I'd say. We
Yeah.
definitely haven't. We went in with a very open mind. There was not a style that we all drew in. There was not. None of us particularly had any sort of pull towards any kind of crazy, wacky style. And that would be great if it was, but I think we're all relatively okay at being more generalist towards the start. We are an open book. We began animating very different projects, and making sure that the first like 4 films that we've made all look completely different. And that's very exciting, because people were coming to us and say, I like this one, or I like that one. And in the last 6-7 months that we've been active, we've started to find that clients are kind of shaping our look for us. And that will organically change and mold and evolve over time, that people kind of say, I like this. And we've had certain work that is more popular than others. People going, I like this, can I have something like that? And having that shaped for us is quite nice, because it means that we're always open to something new. There's this possibility in animation that you can literally make anything with a pen and a tablet, that you can do anything, you can draw like any style, and having these kind of ebbs and flows in what we do and what people want is very exciting. So I guess potentially that. We also, and it may sound controversial, I guess, we also are also okay with failing.
Yeah.
I know this may not be the most amazing business mentality to go in with, but we all were okay with the idea that if this did not work, we would all go and on our separate ways, and essentially we would have a really great show reel to show at the end of it. If we had not formed this company, who knows where I would have been, who knows what I would be doing, but more importantly, this is inspired me and motivated me to keep animating and to keep drawing and to keep making stuff. I don't know whether I would have had that motivation if I was on my own and I had to move back in with my parents or whatever, or if I had to move to London, I would have had to flat share with a bunch of people. Would I have had the facilities? Would I have had the motivation to keep animating and to keep looking? So if we all said, look, if this doesn't work, what have we lost? Because at the moment we're just gaining. It's not like a product based company where, you know, we're making I don't know, something out of plastic or something, and we have to put a bunch of money in to make this product and then we have to sell it. We've never lost any money. We're just, other than paying for the office, which made its money back in like the first 2 months, we have been making nothing but profits.
Nice.
Other than our time. But what my time would have been worth here versus what my time would have been worth had I not been the company and had been spending all my time job searching is different. You can never really compare those two things. But I guess we went for the idea that this is the only time where we have the freedom and the power and the motivation to do something now, that if it falls apart, I'm not ruining careers, I'm not ruining my family, I'm just a guy, I'm 22, I can move on and get a job somewhere else and, you know, take all that experience forward.
That's really good. I feel like I'm grilling you here, like I'm going to invest in your company or something. So what kind of, you mentioned you kind of go with the flow in terms of style. What kind of, other than 2D, what kind of animation do you specialize in? Like, what are you creating for your clients?
So officially, we started with a very, I guess you start with a broad statement, and we started with a set of ideals that we kind of strive to be, and we had that we are traditional 2D and motion graphics for advertising and broadcast. Took us 7 months to get to broadcast, but I'd say that's still pretty fast, all things considered. And hopefully we continue to work for broadcast, because that's what excites us, and for advertising and for creative advertising.
Broadcast, you mean like the short film that you made?
Yeah, broadcast, just stuff designed for TV, for showing on TV and film, and then advertising is more of the online stuff. But we've definitely found a view towards the work that people like. We do a lot of kind of landscapey things, a lot of very scenic, naturalistic things. And that started with one film and then another film in a different style, but they were both about nature. And clients were like, oh, we like this. Can we do something like this? We ended up working for a charity that works for beavers. They want to bring beavers back to Scotland, right? And it's
I'm for that.
yeah, and they were like, we like this previous film you did. We like all of the forests and the streams and nature, and you did, and we've done a lot to do with, you know, the English countryside and the forest and all that stuff. And we never intended for it to be. We're just people who like to draw things and make it and look really good and tell really good stories. But that's the kind of way that we've been going at the moment. I suspect it will change and grow and will be considered all sorts of random and hard to predict. And I think that's exciting, that potentially we haven't set out with a very, very strict plan of this is the type of work that we do, this is how we draw, this is the way we do things. People can buy it. We tell stories. That's our speciality. People come to us, they have a vision, we help them tell the story that they want to tell in the best way possible. How it looks is the exciting part because it's always different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you just said people come to you. How do you get clients? Is it through that word of mouth? Like you also said that London is a huge animation hub and there's not a lot where you are in the city that I forget. It's
Norwich
North.
is fine, yeah.
Norwich.
You're
So
not
why,
missing much,
how
don't
are
worry.
you drawing clients to where you are when everything's happening somewhere else?
Yeah, well, it's a thing, isn't it? Compared to the US or Canadian animation industries, London is the place in England. It's as if the US existed with only LA, as that it's a very, very monocultured place. And that is changing. There's a UK kind of scheme to move a lot of the work up north, and some places are moving up north to try and get everything away from London. But for the most part, for the 3 years of uni, everybody lives under the shadow of London. They go, I'm going to have to move to the big city where the economy is completely different, where people pay, double as much for rent. People would have to share houses. They'd have to audition for all of these junior animator roles, and it all feels very, very corporate. A lot of the UK animation places work in like advertising, like corporate advertising and digital marketing. It's a different world, but with the power of the internet, you can basically be anywhere. We made our company and we chose to stay in Norwich because there wasn't as much animation in Norwich. So we've been reaching out to local companies, and people want that stuff. People like local, people like things that they like. And they are familiar with, and they recognize. Everybody has pride and patriotism and all that stuff. And even though that might be a bit surface level, having links in the local area is very important. But beyond that, we exist entirely on the internet. I mean, we exist in an office in Norwich, but there's nothing stopping us from here and there and stateside and anywhere. We had a company that the job fell through, but they wanted to fly us out to Lagos, Nigeria, to animate for a museum that was opening. They wanted us to see the museum. They didn't care where we came from. There's this.
That would have been cool.
Yeah, it would have been cool. I would have loved to gone. But I'm sure I'll go to many other exciting places in the future. It's one of those things where the world we live in is very, very now more than ever. You can tell that it's more and more connected by the internet, and it seems like a simple point, but we can exist anywhere. I could be working on all of this animation from my bed in my pajamas, but I don't know. But it's one of those things where I can reach far and wide. And the way that obviously, London is very big. London has a lot of animation companies, but we don't compete with these people because the type of work we do is different. And the scale of work we do is different in all sorts of ways. The style, the mentality, the ethic we have. We're smaller, we're more personal. We deal obviously smaller in budget as well. So companies that can't go to Blue Zoo or to not to scale or someone like that they're dealing with the bigger budgets, they're dealing with the bigger staff. We have a different corner of the world cut out for us.
So who are you competing with then? Other small studios kind of deal?
So there are other small studios, especially in our very, very local vicinity. Where there are other companies that have begun to set up in Norwich, especially in our careers advisor incubator setup.
So you're not the only student group to be in animation and use the incubator space?
Yeah.
Oh wow, okay. So it's like a common thing there, I guess.
Yeah. So in the incubator space, it used to be for anyone. Well, it still is officially for everyone of any course. And there's a lot of people in there, and there was a lot of people in there. But over the 3 years that we were a student, we began to see animation companies pop up. And now every major studio, every major office space is is taken up by animation just because they do the most
Wow.
successfully. And obviously that would appear like it's something that would worry us, but the companies that are in there, we're all friends with them.
For now.
Because yeah, for now. And luckily they all do completely different stuff from us. One of them now focuses more on film and animation, mixes up. They do majority film and then sometimes animation. Another one is in like lettering and calligraphy, and then another one works a lot for YouTubers, streamers, kind of like a Newgrounds flash game style animation. They work a lot with video games, and like none of us cross paths, and obviously that is a worry, that eventually maybe next year a studio will come up and cross paths with us, but like you can't stop that. That's just the way that the world works.
Fair enough. So then how are you actually getting clients? Like other than existing online,
Yeah.
how did you get your first client as a group?
So um I guess that's just
Can I guess? Like maybe you called up all of your friends and family, spread the word on all social media, like we're a new company, we're looking for something,
yeah.
sent an email to every single advertising agency you could find. Is that what happened?
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
hustling?
So like, I guess as crude and as non-graceful as it sounds, you start with the kitchen sink, and just see what works, right? And yeah, we did go and we ended up getting some contacts, some very big contacts back from people that we just knew. And then we got some different ones from online and different ones from reaching out just randomly to emails. And we did start relatively at the bottom. We signed up for websites like Fiverr or Twine or People Per Hour, and
Tell me about Fiverr. I'm interested in that because that's like a huge site for getting very cheap stuff. And I know that
very
some animators actually make a living off that. So did
yes,
you get
yeah.
any clients out of Fiverr?
Yeah, we've got some clients out of Fiverr, and
Were they worth it is the question.
yes, in
Okay.
that they were stepping stones.
Okay.
We tried to leave behind Fiverr as quick as we could, and we don't get work from Fiverr anymore. It's a good place if you work within their world. They have a lot of animation that is template based. So people that make a living off Fiverr are usually After Effects animators, usually people that work and have a big library of existing
Hmm.
assets and can kind of drop and drag stuff in. Um, Fiverr is notoriously cheap and quick. I don't actually think it's as bad a website as people have given it credit for. Its reputation precedes it. But I definitely wouldn't recommend, if you are trying to make a company, to stick with something like Fiverr forever. Twine is very good. That's a lot higher budgets. You'll still have people on there who want things for nothing. But we had some good clients on Twine as well. But we've, putting your work on a freelancing messaging board, and just hoping that someone gets back to you is very, very risky. So, we were trying all of these things at the same time. But from now, we're reaching more directly, and we've had clients just come to us just out of the blue.
Nice.
Which is always that's the sign that you're starting something. The ball is rolling when we have a guy who works in Silicon Valley, San Francisco, comes up to us. He says, I'm making a pilot. Do you want to animate it for me?
Fun.
Yeah, and it's like stuff like that where by this snowball effect where we're not always going to grow exponentially. That's not how business works. There'll be bad times and there'll be good times, but it's always keeping ahead of the curve and making sure that we're looking and we're changing. I mean, I still don't know all
Yeah.
of the techniques. You ask how to get clients, my answer is I don't know, because we've had so many things that have worked and so many other things that haven't worked. We definitely have things that work better than others. At the moment, I've just been calling design agencies. I sent hundreds of emails out in the
Oh
past,
wow. What do
and
you say in one of those emails? I'm
Uh,
assuming you get like a 1% response rate or something like
oh
that.
yeah, probably even less than that. But
So what does a typical email say? Hey, this is
it,
Liam from
mhm,
cutthemustard.com
yeah,
and we're desperate for work. No.
basically, yeah. It's a call out. Here's what we do. You don't want to waste people's time, especially if
Yeah,
you're asking them for money.
yeah. Oh, for
Um,
sure.
here's what we do. Here's why we're good at what we do. If you ever needed any work, here's where you can find us. And then we link to show reels and to the website. And then from now, I've been calling back and saying, by the way, guys, I sent you an email a while
Uh,
back. You didn't reply. Uh, but I've noticed, obviously, with the lockdown, there's a need for animation. People need animation. People can't film, and
yeah.
9 times out of 10, the person on the other side of the phone is going, yeah, that is a good idea, and that's more recent, so I can't tell you of the returns of that. But it's always
But
about
how,
adapting and trying and trying and trying and trying and expecting to hear no basically every. That 1% is all that matters, right? Because 1% will be 2% tomorrow, um,
I
hopefully.
like your attitude. Yeah. No, that makes sense. How are you getting these people's emails and phone numbers? You're just emailing the general the studio.com and you're calling reception and asking to speak with
Yeah,
somebody
nine times out of 10. Company's
Okay.
House is a really good place. So not that I would recommend this for like a media company, but if you are looking to get to someone specifically, Company's House is well, I don't know if it exists in the US, but it's a UK thing where every company has to legally include the business address, email of the owner, um, date formed, the name of the legal owner of the company. And if you ever just want to go straight to the source, that's the place
Huh.
um, to just
Nice.
go.
That's a good tip. I'm sure there's some kind of like business registry site in the US, and I'm pretty sure that information is also available in Canada and business registry sites. So
Yeah,
I didn't even think of that, but that's a good idea.
yeah.
So you're working full time, the five of you. I want to ask what your team is comprised of, but like, what is your time spent doing? Is it 90% of your time spent animating and 10% right now reaching out? Is that kind of how it's working?
Yeah, I'd say so. We spend a lot of time on animation. With the way that we're working, not everything is up to what I would call like professional speed.
Yeah.
Because we're working all the other jobs at the same time. We all have secondary roles within the company. Um, so I deal with money and finances. One of the girls deals with social media. We have client production and keeping everybody on track and all the shots and schedules and everything. And then we have people that speak to clients. Um,
Yeah,
and
that's a lot. Jeez. So you're all animating, but like say you get a job, who's doing the storyboard? Is that one person's job or is that
yeah,
everybody's job? Like,
so
how are you
inside.
divvying it up?
So we definitely have things that people are more akin towards. We're still trying to give people equal amounts of stuff, right? I want
Yeah.
to, if I'm not that great at compositing and post production, I want to try that because at the end of the day, we're all equal in this company, and I want to come out of it knowing more than I did before. I want to keep moving, I want to keep growing, and fill those roles. But at the moment, we have people who are better at storyboarding, people who are better at compositing. If it ever comes to, if we ever have a script that gets recorded, it's always my voice that gets used. I guess we just naturally fill those roles. Um, that yeah, we have also looked to try and get pretty equal directing roles when we can. So almost all of us have directed all of us have directed at one point or another. And it's not everybody's cup of tea. Not everybody likes it so much. And people have gone, well, I had my go at directing and I'd
Yeah.
rather just animate. Um, but it's fun to say that we can do that. That's the power that we have with a company of our own, that we are working not from the bottom. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I have the whole experience from top to bottom, from getting a client to finishing the final frame of animation. And that's very exciting to see it through, because it feels like our work. It's our story that we've told for somebody, and it's very, very close to home. Every project we make feels very personal because there's that hands-on approach. We've dealt with everything. We've promoted it on social media ourselves. We've made it. We've done all the keyframes and the storyboards and the animatic, and we've done all the in-betweens ourselves and colored it and composited it and put all the lighting on, and then it's done. And that's a very fulfilling experience. Yeah, not really an answer to your question.
Yeah,
but.
no, that is. I think that's actually incredible that like not many people have the opportunity, especially right out of school or even in their careers, to touch so many parts of a project versus, you're hired to be the background painter for a year or something like that, and that's all you do, versus directing and storyboarding and voice acting and getting to touch the finance. I think that's incredibly valuable as well. Also,
Yes.
I think it's amazing and rare that you've been able to find such a cohesive team that works so well together. I hope that continues going forward, because I think that's also an amazing part of what you're building as a company and why you've been successful, it sounds like. So you mentioned a couple of skills that you guys have needed. There's compositing, lighting, storyboards. Like, what are the core offerings that you do? Does a client say, I have an idea for a commercial, and you do everything start to finish, and you like special effects? I don't know. Do you take me through everything that you guys offer?
I guess it depends on the client so far. We're lucky that obviously, we do 2D animation beginning to end, but we have offered different things in the past. We're lucky that we have a friend who is, I guess, unofficially part of the company who makes sound, and anytime we need him, he comes in. And that's a big advantage to us. We do have sound recording equipment. We do have someone that can make music. We've made original music for like a bunch of our work, and that's always a nice step up. But for the most part, somebody comes in. We've had a big mix of a client who comes in and goes, this is exactly what I want, make it like I want it. And we go, okay, fine. Or we've had people that have come in, we're working with a music video at the moment, and the client didn't really care too much. He said he trusts our judgment. And you show people the work every step along the way to keep them, involved and whatnot. And they're going, yeah, I like it. And that's fun because we get to make the story ourselves. Not that there's too much difference between making a story for someone and making a story by ourselves. They're both equally validating. But for the most part, we haven't written too much. There's not ever been too much of a writing. Obviously, we have the ideas stage, but that's usually relatively quick with the work that we've done. And then, storyboarding, animatics, keyframes, roughs, tie downs, color in-betweens, every stage of the animation pipeline, I guess.
Nice. You're utilizing everything school taught you. I wanna roll things back a little bit and kind of discover what propelled you on this journey in the first place. And it also has to do with you saying you only do 2D, because I know you started off in stop motion, because back in the day, like, what was this, like 12 years ago or something? How long ago? You were posting these little stop motions on YouTube, and that's how we actually first connected. I think I was in like high school or something like that, and I don't know, I remember seeing your films and commenting on them and subscribing to them. And so tell me why you decided to pursue animation, and then why you stopped stop motion.
So my YouTube videos, I was like 13. I was just making stuff on the dining room table, I guess. I love stop motion. I love plasticine and like stuff like Aardman is very, very British, and I love that stuff. And YouTube had like a golden age of stop motion. Not that I'm saying the golden age is over now, but it felt
over.
like I felt like everywhere I looked, there was this like amazing stop motion and like super good stop motion as well, that people would just like make stuff with a camera in on a desk and it would be great. And that's like the power of it, right? And you're a kid and you see someone go, oh, they've just made this thing. I got my stop motion camera the year before and I didn't use it for a whole year. And then Christmas rolled around again, and I was like, "Oh, I have this stop motion stuff," and I made some, and it was okay. I mean, it was all right. I like the idea that I'm gonna keep it up on YouTube forever. I like that it makes me want to work harder because it's really bad. But also, I like the idea that I can always be like, "Oh yeah, that's the stuff that I made." I think somebody else might have, deleted all that stuff by now. But I like it, and I like stop motion. I wanted to go do games design, and I got a BAFTA nomination as a 16-year-old in games design. There was a competition called BAFTA Young Games Designers. I went up there, met some famous people from YouTube and whatnot. Didn't win, but that was always good, and that's always been on my CV even now. And but yeah, I got to uni, I went to go do games design, and then I changed my mind at the last moment. I always loved animation. I didn't know why I hadn't picked it when the uni I was going to did animation. I was like, well, if I'm an animator, I can still go into games. But if I'm a games designer, I can't go into animation. It's not how it works. Animation is, to me, like a fundamental core skill in art. It's like filmmaking and writing and drawing and cinematography and all these things, character design, all sound design, all of these things in one package, right? It's how to tell stories in like the purest sense. And yeah, I did it, but I ended up just swaying more towards 2D. I had to wait. We only had 4 stop motion sets, and just the waiting times I'd have to go in, I'd have to book a time. I know this is a completely normal procedure pretty much everywhere, but I'd have to book a time. And compared to filming whenever I wanted in my bedroom versus this, you have all the great equipment and all the great sets and the cameras and the rigs and everything. But if I could only animate once a week, I didn't know how I was going to get any better. Whereas I had a Wacom tablet. I could go up. I finally had a really, really high res computer that I could animate on every second of the day from 9 till 9. And I was like, well, yeah, I'll do that. And I feel like I don't know. If I could access a stop motion studio every day, who knows? Maybe I'd still be a stop motion animator. But I'm very, very happy.
Well, you have your own studio now. You can build a stop motion studio.
Yeah.
So let me ask you this: is everything like? Emotionally, are you living kind of the dream that you set out for yourself and meeting all those goals and everything? Like, how does it feel?
I definitely don't think I don't think I set out to make a company because it was the dream. I mean, I guess it is the dream, but I knew.
But you're animating full time.
I knew I wouldn't be living the dream life. I knew that it would be a sacrifice, but the sacrifice of wanting to build something of my own is worth more than the instant gratification of going and I don't know, going and becoming a junior animator here. It's very hard to picture what my life would have been had I chose to go left instead of right. But yeah, I'm very happy with the choices we've made. I would like, everybody would like certain things. I'd like to not work at a bowling alley. But I don't mind it. Like I am animating beginning to end projects all the way through. We are seeing things. I'm very personally invested in the stories that we tell. We're showing stuff on TV. We're making films with very strange charities and companies. And, I know things about things I never thought I would know. And it's like, I never thought I would talk about beavers so much, or I never thought I would know so much about like Eon Energy, an energy company that I had to work for a bit. And it's like, those are the things that excite me, that in 10 years time, I hope that the company is doing great and making all of these fantastic things. But the blindness of it is very exciting, that whatever I'll be making will be mine. Not mine, it will be ours, right. But it will be completely unknown. Someone will come to us with the next big idea, and we'll make it happen. And yeah, it's exciting that I don't know where it will lead.
Nice. I love that. It's like that's part of the journey and the process, and you're just kind of experiencing it.
Yeah.
So I have one more topic I want to talk about, and something that you had mentioned to me before our chat, and it's your journey with mental health and how hard it was to be patient for things to pay off and to go through all this process and everything. Can you kind of talk about that and where you were coming from and how you feel now?
Yeah. So you know, everybody struggles. Graduates, I'd say, struggle bad. Not necessarily all of them. I don't want to paint everyone with one brush, but there is a big change, right? You are finally going out into the world. For most of us, especially in my course, we had all gone straight from school to college to university. So everybody, there'd never been a time out of that. And I guess there is this expectation where everybody has been going, get a job, get a job, get a job. And maybe that doesn't come true. Expectation and reality are very, very different things. And a lot of this is what we talked about last time, is that I gave a talk, I gave a lecture in front of the university. They do a big animation festival every year. I gave a talk there, and we did a talk of 5 things you'll learn after graduating in your first year. But a lot of it was swayed around mental health and the expectations versus the reality you may face. Everybody wants to, you know, reach for the highest rung possible. Everybody wants to, you know, make something of themselves. But I think a lot of people get caught up in the idea that everything has to happen now. And that obviously is something that can lead to people being sad, people being anxious, people being depressed. And I think that's a very natural human emotion. But we talked about not hearing no a lot, and like we deal with this all the time. People, you know, you set up for things, and you were talking about applying for stuff last time. You apply for all of these things, and you have to expect that 99% you're going to hear back no. We also talked about people going home and people taking breaks. With, you know, sometimes it can feel a bit shameful, especially if you don't find a way straight in, you don't move away straight in, you've just had 3 years of independence, and you may have to go back and live with your parents. Nobody like wants that. I'm sure some people want that, but like that step back from independence can feel rather frustrating, but like it's all necessary. The way I framed it in the talk is that you will be working until you're like 70, maybe beyond that. There is a long time in the industry to make a lot of art and to work for a lot of people. I wouldn't rush it, because you have the time to stop, you have the time to take breaks, you have the time to be burnt out. It's completely acceptable to do that. I think a lot of it is kind of can tie in with what people are feeling with the coronavirus at the moment, is that there's especially on social media, there's this kind of widespread feeling that some people are like, oh, I should be working really, really hard. I should be using all this free time that I have to become the best version of myself. And it's just like, life doesn't work like that. People are people, and they have needs and wants, and people need to be happy. People need to rest. People need to take breaks. And that keeps us human. You wouldn't be an artist if you didn't live. You would be a machine. And this idea that a lot of people, they get out the day of graduation and they're met with disappointment. It's a feeling that I definitely, like, we all dealt with in one way or another, especially when we were all working from this house. It was very lonely, that we worked from home. And, you know, especially working from home when we didn't make any money or any clients, we spent 99% of our time going, hi, please hire us. That was the hardest time. But you do get through it, and making sure that you have people around, not necessarily in a company, but just having people around is always a good thing. We talked about teamwork, and how collaboration is one of the cornerstones of animation, that nobody can make a really good, really long film by themselves. I mean, they could. It would take a really, really long time. But, 99% of animation is made in teams. Teamwork is good. Feeling like your university, specifically in reference to the talk I get, university making sure that everybody around them in that lecture theatre was a friend or an ally, because like you said, everybody is either going to hire you or you're going to hire them at some point in the future. And that's a very exciting thing, because you don't want to look at the animator next to you and go, oh, you're a rival, we're going to fight for the same job in 3 years' time, because that's a very negative way to go. It will only lead to harm. Animation is a small industry. There's 11,000 animators in the UK, which is like nothing. Everybody knows each other. I think it's important to be nice, to be caring, to look out for one another, to work together, and to be a nice person before a good animator, because you can be the best animator in the world, but if you're not a nice person, nobody's going to hire you, because you want to, the fundamentals of being human is that we connect with each other. Animation is about stories, and stories is about connection.
Yeah, I think you brought up a lot of good points, and some that relate to my journey specifically, especially because this is a second career for me. I remember when I first made the decision, and to go to school was a big decision for me, because I wanted to jump in right away, because I was like, I can't waste any more time. I've already spent a decade doing this other career. Like, I want to start right away. And going to school for me taught, and also this podcast taught me, that kind of everybody's journey is different, and taking breaks is good. I remember for the first year in university, I didn't take a break for a single day, except for the day before second year started. I like just went to the park and sat down and did nothing, because I was like so riled up with like just going so hard. But yeah, and I think especially like you said, during this coronavirus time, like I'm scrolling through social media, and some people are super productive. Like, it's hard to not feel bad about yourself when you see so much in your face about what people are doing. Yeah. So, and the last thing, sorry, I'm kind of like rambling at this point, but the last thing you said was, you spent 99% of your time trying to get work at the beginning. So what kept you going when you were hearing no, 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 and the future was blind, and there wasn't like, okay, if we send email 101, then that will be the one. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. So how do you keep going when you're not seeing any quote unquote checkmark successes, and the future is just vague?
Yeah. My coworkers, my friends, I think is ultimately the answer. The fact that there was 5 of us. I think it sounds very bleak, but I think maybe if it was just me, and I had sent 99 emails and got 99 no's, then I would be like, okay, let's call it a day. I don't know. I probably wouldn't, but I think that having each other, it means that everybody kind of helps each other up, keeps each other going. And not just the 5 of us in the company, but I've got other friends in animation. They're trying, we're trying, everybody's working, everybody's going. Some people are making it, and then some people don't make it. Some people make it, and then they have a really long period where they're not doing anything. I think just seeing how different everybody else's experience is always that kind of like spark of hope that, you can keep going. If 5 people who know nothing about business can suddenly kind of grow a company out of nothing, I think that a lot of people can do whatever they want, because I guess it's just about persistence. I don't think it's necessarily about being the most talented. I don't think it's about being the hungriest for it. I think you just got to keep going. You can stop, or you can take a break, you can go home, whatever the circumstances are, but at some point you're going to get back on the horse, you're going to keep going.
Well, I find sorry, go ahead.
No, that's fine.
I was going to say, I find your journey very inspiring, and I'm wondering if somebody is listening to this right now, and they've been thinking of kind of doing their own thing in their mind for a while, and it's been stewing, and they don't know where to start, and they haven't really maybe even admitted to themselves that they want to start their own kind of studio or just be freelance and do their own thing. What is something, looking back from your experience, that you would say to them to do? Like, what can they do today to get the ball rolling? Because you can't just be like, you can start a business and then
Yeah.
tomorrow you start a business. It's like a gradual progression of like small steps, right?
Well, I guess the thing is that the ball starts rolling today, and it will start snowballing. So, for example, I spoke to some second year university students at my university. They were looking to form a company. I told them everything that I hoped they could ever know, and I know obviously they're going to be a rival business potentially, but it's they could have found the information anywhere. I'm happy that they came to me. And I told them that I'm, happy and I'm glad and I'm envious that they're starting this early. They are beginning to know people, and making those connections and finding out very subtly, very simply about business and how it works, and going, hey, can we have an example of a contract? Can we see what that looks like? So when it comes to us sending it to a client, we can go, okay, yeah. Very, very simple steps. You go, if I want to make a business, I should start to get to know people. I should, if the time permits it, maybe start trying to find some work, even if you don't intend on doing it. Like, just be like, here's how you would find work. Here's how people say yes, because we're still learning that now. And I'm sure, companies at the top of the line are still learning that. They're going, oh, we haven't got any, clients today. What went wrong? And they'll try something new. It's about change and progression and whatnot. So I guess you just start with the smallest steps. I know that's incredibly vague, but
So what is a small step that somebody can do today that'll lead
uh,
them to something else tomorrow?
okay, so you're a first year student and you're saying, I might want to, in 2.5 years' time, form a company. Reach out to somebody else that's formed a company and say, what was your experiences like? Because I can only say so much. I only have 8 months experience.
Yeah.
We reached out to other people. We reached out to companies all across the UK and said, what was your experience like? They had far more interesting things to say than me, unfortunately. But people said, well, this happened, that happened. The company that we spoke to, who ended up convincing us, said that they were kind of the final convincer. We went, this is all the evidence that this is a good idea, because it is a risk and it's something we wanted to do, but we needed the proof that it's not going to ruin our lives first. And we had this company and they said, oh yeah, well, where we're from, the council were like, oh, there's no animation companies in the whole city. We'll give you 6 months of minimum wage pay to get the company started. And like, unfortunately, we didn't get anything as lucky as that, but we are lucky to have a cheap office. And it's those little wins like that, going, where can I find something that can get the ball rolling? Where can I look online to find an opportunity for funding? We got funding. That is one of the primary things that got our company started. If you could look for somebody that will give you, an organization, a company, a charity that will give you money and go, hey, this is a film for this cause. This is a film that will make us something. You having the one first thing, a project of relatively substantial size to go, okay, we can build off of this, means that you're getting into the groove, you're animating every day, and you can spend all the rest of the time going, oh, let's look for stuff, let's look for work, let's keep going. So I know it's annoying. I don't have one wrapped.
Well, no, I like the first thing you mentioned, which was try to reach out to somebody else who's started a business. And the way that I do that is just on LinkedIn, because LinkedIn is still not like completely oversaturated, where if I connect with somebody and send them a message, they'll like 99% of the time respond. But how did you reach out to those people?
So
just through the business owner email thing?
Yeah, well, bit of that, bit of Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter's really good for animators. We found a lot of places where animators, especially UK animators, they just seem to all know each other, and they all, you're not sucking up to anybody, but they're just talking, they're joking. Yeah. It's all in context, and people are saying, oh, somebody comes up and goes, oh, I'm working on this big project. We're hiring for like a 25-man team. Who wants to send me your show reels? And then in the replies, there's a bunch of people going, oh, here's my show reel. And they're all friends and they all know each other, becoming naturally part of that world rather than, one of your previous podcast guests was talking about networking and just being quite natural and just kind of stating your intentions, but being friendly and saying, hi, I'd like to speak to you about this. Everybody, not everybody's going to say, yeah, of course, that's the point of all of this. But somebody, if there's something that you're asking and it's not going to take up too much of their time, I'm sure people will be glad to oblige. I mean, people like to talk about themselves, right? You ask people a simple question for advice. You don't take too much. And I'm sure that there's people out there that have asked for too much. The worst thing you can ever hear is no. So
I agree with that. I get some emails sometimes and it's like 15 questions and I'm like, can you just ask me one? I'll be happy with that. And I'll respond to your 15 questions, but it's going to take me a month because I have to like, oh, there's that email I got to respond to type of thing. No, I like that. Is just kind of getting yourself in the in-group type of thing in a like non-aggressive way. That's really good advice. Is there anything else you'd like to share? Talk about?
Oh, I'm sure there's a million things, but nothing comes to mind too much.
I was going to ask you what's next, but it kind of sounds like because of the virus situation.
Well, next is interesting because we are growing relatively okay. People want animation. We have a couple of projects that are coronavirus specific. And I guess that's I don't want to be like, oh, how lucky are we, because it's obviously a horrible thing. But
I understand.
It's intriguing because I never ever know what's coming next. We have directions we want to build towards. It sounds like a tiny aspiration compared to some of the other guests you've had on here, but to quit your part-time job and to work animation full-time and get paid for it is very, very exciting to me. And I'm sure that is relatable to students. I'm sure there's a lot of students listening who are working in a coffee shop at the weekend or a bar in the evenings. And I've done, a bunch of these like jobs that I didn't want to do. And I've had fun doing them, but I don't want to do them. And working in a career that you like and getting paid for it is a big thing. Beyond that, there's aspirations can, the sky's the limit. To hire an employee of our own would be like blow my mind. To make something of our own, completely funded by ourselves, to make like a short film that we funded, to get like a Vimeo top pick, to win a film festival, all of these things. There's a laundry list of directions that I'd love to go in and things we want to achieve, but I guess all of it starts with just telling really, really good stories.
I like that a lot, and I think all those goals are valid and really exciting too. I don't think you should downplay them at all.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you wanted to share to kind of wrap up our chat?
No, I don't think so. If anybody wants to find us, do you want me to do that bit now?
You can do it. I was going to do it, but you can do it.
No, you go for it. I want to hear you do it.
Well, I was going to say thank you for coming on the podcast first. I really hope that if somebody's listening and, they're kind of in the mind space where you were, that they find your chat really inspiring. I know I have. I think it's incredible that what you've done, kind of you put your mind to developing your own career path in your second year of university, which is like you're envious of people doing this younger, but you already did it fairly young yourself. And now you're well on your way to making your dreams reality. I think that's amazing. And I'm really happy we got the opportunity to chat about it.
Yeah, I'm glad I reached out to you. And I guess that is one of the things, right? Is that I reached out to you and said, hey, can I be on the podcast? And I guess the worst you could have said was no, right? I asked a simple question. If anybody does want to talk about, if anybody listening wants to talk about careers or starting a company or getting out of uni and what they want to do, just send the company Instagram account a message. I'm sure we'll answer a question if you want. But yeah.
Well, I'm happy you reached out as well. And also, comes full circle. You said animation community is pretty small, and that proves even overseas, because, you know, back in the day, subscribing to each other's little desktop style motions, and now we're chatting on a podcast. So if you are listening and you'd like to follow Liam or check out his work or his company, which is Cut the Mustard, I don't think we really mentioned the name too many times. I'm going to include the links to his Instagram and the company's Instagram and the website, which is just cutthemustard_animation on Instagram and cutthemustard.com. For the website, I'll include those both in the description of this video. And thank you so much for listening. And that's all for now. Goodbye.